Let me just ask you to contemplate just for a moment, because I don't, maybe I haven't said this before, I don't know. But can you locate where the self ends and the world begins? Like, where does the awareness and the world, what we call the world, begin? Is there, can you see where that is? So you can't separate mind and the world, but you can't say they're the same thing either, right? That's how everything is. That's the view. Interdependence. This is why we focus so much on interdependence, because it shows us our who we are in relationship. So, as to Jackson, what Jackson asked about the self is always in co-creation, because mind and its world are like this. It could never leave co-creation. Even if you blocked yourself in a cave, you're still going to be breathing the air and sitting on the ground, and you're going to need to sustain yourself with food. So you're always in relationship. You cannot separate yourself from the world in which you live. You'll also be in relationship to the activities of the mind that arise. That's also part of what we call the world. The subjective mind perceives the object, which is all the arising of all these different experiences, even consciously. So we can't separate. So we're always co-creating. We can't not co-create. And what when we say selflessness, it means there's no singular, permanent, or independent self. That's what selflessness means. It doesn't mean that there's no functioning self. It means that there's no self that's a singular, because it's co-creating. It's always changing. It's different all the time, and it's moving, and it's always in relationship to the world that it encounters. It's not independent. There's no independent self. There's no singular self. There's no permanent self. So I think, these words like emptiness and selflessness and egolessness and all this are very confusing, because it doesn't mean there's no self, but it also means there's no self. There's not, like, we think in extremes. We either think it exists or it doesn't exist, right? Remember? It either exists or it doesn't. We cling to the self as existing, and we're always afraid of extinction, of death. These are the extremes. Then we don't feel ourself in co-creation. And to be in co-creation, if you really understand who you are, you'll see that you can't find a singular, permanent, independent self, but you do see that you're part of co-creation all the time. And so what you do is very important. And then if you get to the point of really understanding who you are, and more is in the way that Flavius was saying, you're always, it's not, you can't say you are, but you can't say you're not. You can't say that you're somebody, but you can't say you're nothing. You're in this interdependent play.